So the reason why I wanted to host this is because 2023 is quickly approaching, and the market is shifting in a major standpoint. So I kind of readjusted some of the content a little bit. You guys know how passionate I am about Black professionals using their skill set that they have right now to pivot. 2023 is going to be a year where you see a lot of corporations go through this hiring and firing frenzy. And so we're going to get really deep into that. So get some notes. Make sure you're ready to ask questions, take notes, and things like that because I'm going to go really fast. Okay. So, welcome. One of the reasons I started this workshop is because I feel like often, more than not, professionals of color, we're often left out of these conversations, these complex conversations as to what do we need to do to reposition ourselves so that we can really be earning what we're worth, pivot into leadership, and pivot up the ladder into those higher paying opportunities. With corporations being really big right now on diversity and inclusion, it's very important that you really understand what's out there, right? And I like to show where proof is in the pudding. Microsoft, Amazon, Nissan, even a few energy companies are all making these pledges to go into having more Black employees in leadership. And when we say in leadership, we're talking about that 180, 200, and even higher for those of you with 15 to 20, 25 plus years experience. So let's really get in tune with what this means to the job market. A lot of hiring and firing frenzies go on. But the catch is, if you have imposter syndrome, it's going to impact you in the following ways. The way you pitch and sell yourself. And this typically kicks off when the recruiter says, so tell me about yourself. If you don't do very well with that question, you need to listen up because they're looking for a certain pitch. The confidence level. If you kind of clam up or you get nervous or you kind of freak out a little bit, this is something that recruiters watch when they hire executives or leaders. Your presentation, your confidence is everything. The ability to genuinely showcase a connection to the role you're applying for. This is huge. So you can't just use the buzzwords in the post. You have to actually show a seamless transition if they put you in place there. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through how to do all of that. Another reason I've hosted this, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Daniela. I used to be a VP myself. I moved and I declined this invite to the C-suite and moved into having my own advisory firm here in Texas. I'm the only Black-owned advisory firm in Texas for oil and gas, energy, and tech. So when people come into Texas, they go through me. So one of the reasons I host this is because there's a huge issue in the African American community with us and salary negotiations, the wealth gap, and the fact that these people can promote diversity and inclusion all day, but the likelihood of African Americans applying is really, really low. So that's what makes this a complicated approach. So I like to do this because I really do feel like it's time for so many professionals with tenure, whether you're exposed to tech or not, to really understand how to pivot up into those high six-figure roles and eliminate your imposter syndrome. So I call this my Imposter to Influence series, and I'll tell you about my boot camp to help you with that in a minute. So we're going to work through these three things really quickly. The triggers for tell me about yourself, the top area you disconnect, and the culture coding, which causes you to also disconnect when you are pivoting up the ladder. A little quick tidbit about me and my little journey through to tech. I started out in oil and gas at Shell. I moved into TransCanada and working at Bechtel. And in this journey of this, O&M planner, director, VP, in this journey, I built a strong Rolodex, and I also moved into an area which was corporate strategy to help me kind of pivot into starting my own company. What really gave me gas is when I started arbitration between corporations. It allowed me to get closer to the need of tech so that I can make a clean transition. And as you see where it says you are here, that's me. I made the news. I've been trending in the media for being in this space and being one of the only African American women to do so. So that's pretty much my journey into tech and where I started from. I always like to show that to show people you don't have to originate in tech to be in tech. A little bit more, my brand started to boom in 2020 and in 2021. I got more media coverage, more interviews, and more people took an interest in what I was doing, not only in my community, but on the corporate side because of the need to have diverse and inclusive leaders. So this is something that is like a passion for me. My accomplishments, I've done TED Talks. I've been on Comeback with Erica Cobb, who's with Daily Live. And again, even the media coverage, it's just been such a huge blessing for me to get in front of people just like you to kind of help you make the same shift. And so if you're ready to get started, let me know in the comments because we're about to go. So, what's the top trigger for when the recruiter says, "So tell me about yourself"? Leaders who communicate their accomplishments and boast their skill sets will get paid more and create a demand effect. This is tried and true and proven, not only with my clients, but statistically speaking. What makes people feel safe with you is the fact that you trust yourself in that position or you trust yourself as a leader. And so corporations want to trust and hire people who actually believe and trust their own skills. And so this is why imposter syndrome can kind of stand in between you and moving to that next level. Because if you don't drink your own Kool-Aid or you don't really know how to pitch into these types of roles, you really won't make the connection with the recruiter, and she probably or he won't probably pass you on to the next level. So the number one confidence killer in the game is, so tell me about yourself. So let's talk about what is it that the recruiter wants to hear, right? What typically kicks up for you? There's this cycle that a lot of people of color go through when I sit and talk with them. Um, it starts with them saying, "I ramble and freeze up," or either one. And this typically is because you don't know how to capture what you do in 90 seconds. And you don't know how to shorten your resume because you really don't know how to explain what you do. So a lot of you have a resume that's not actually capturing what you actually do. Most important, your role has grown so much that you don't really know what you do. This is also very common. And so you keep going through this cycle where when it's time for you to say, "So tell me about yourself," these three areas are constantly ruminating in the back of your mind. And so I want you to remember my pitch that I just gave you earlier. The reason why I always brag and boast about my accomplishment and my skill set is it showcases my ability to be comfortable with my own expertise, and be secure with my ability to solve problems. As you can see now, this is something I'm doing in front of strangers. It justifies my rate. If you can't talk about your accomplishments and what you've contributed to your industry, I am a game changer. I am a change agent. I am a TED Talk. I'm an expert in my industry. I'm an expert in leadership pivoting. I say that with pride because that justifies my rate. If you're calling me in to solve all these problems, you're going to pay me for it. Because if you don't, you'll pay McKinsey probably 10 times more. And so I want you to see your skill set the same way. A lot of you are doing jobs where you're getting paid here, but you contribute here. And so the purpose of this workshop is to help you close that gap. It also helps the decision maker to have a strong reason in selecting you, right? And becoming part of their bragging rights. One of the biggest things that I always noticed when I was promoted or when I was brought in with my company as a consultant is the person that made the decision to bring me, it made them look good. So you have to kind of understand that bragging or boasting your rights is not so much arrogance, it's you creating a security blanket of comfort that you really do know what you're doing. And when you do that very well, it eliminates you getting nervous around telling them how much to pay you, what kind of leader you are, how do you explain not having a title for leadership at this point, and why are you on the market? When you do the pitch that I'm about to show you, those questions kind of become very easy. So I want you to take note here if you're writing. Your pitching starts with you using impact, talk impact. What do you do in plain terms? Not what you do according to that company, but in plain terms. If I don't come from your industry, I don't understand your acronyms, I don't understand your lingo or your language. What do you do in plain terms? You need to write that out, no matter how long it is. What problems are you solving right now in your organization? I want you to write that down for me, okay? Because this is where a lot of things come, like everything kind of comes together. When I see professionals struggle, these are the areas I'm going to always direct you to first. So let's look at what this looks like. That's too quick. Okay, well, for a job post like this one, this is Director Executive of Communications at Azure. I had a client actually get this opportunity, and this is how I repositioned her. I remember she said, "I think I'm not in marketing. I probably won't be a fit for this." So the funny thing is, if you're a project manager, you would be a fit for this because the thing about job posts today, you can't rely on the title. The title is just telling you where your overlap is. It's in the description where you have to read. And so if you read in, if you can kind of zoom in and look at it, you probably see it. This person is basically a project manager. They're overseeing multiple groups to drive a story to tell the market. So if there's a new Azure cloud, which is the cloud feature with Microsoft, how do we communicate that to the customer? You have to know all the specs, exactly what's going on, meet with everybody in all these departments to pull together a story of what that is. That's what most project managers do when they have a dashboard. And so when you look at a post like this, stay away from getting overwhelmed by the title. Actually read what this person's responsibility is. And this is the pitch that I gave her. This opens up the interview where you gain control and you're going to be able to give the recruiter something that makes you, that's easier for you to explain if they slide into. So tell me about yourself. If you say my background is built off me being the core of the project in engineering design, that makes sense because this role right here, they want someone who's going to work with data, the design team, the tech team. And so if you're used to pulling all these people together for a deliverable, that is pretty much what you're going to be doing here. And so the pitch I gave her, I worked my way up into project management, which showcases range, overseeing multiple teams that impact operations. Okay. Which would be, and when I say things like as data engineers, which would be our IT group, that's what we call translating. Because remember, what you call something in your company, other people may not call it. So this is how we transition or translate to the job post. So you don't have to use the words they're using. You just have to translate what you're doing in terms of what they're looking for. As it relates to operations and storytelling, to our key stakeholders, giving me a solid 15 years as a key player to our leadership team. That is pretty much what this job post is looking for. So this is what I mean by a pitch. So now when the recruiter says, oh, wow, tell me a little bit more about how you work with IT, you're in control of this interview because you just gave her a basis to go by. So that's how I like to kind of shape things for my clients. When you have pitches in place, it makes the job easier for the recruiter to close out the process on hiring for that role. Typically, when my clients do this or recruiters hear that kind of a pitch, they're going to push you to the next level because you just met all their requirements. And so you have to keep in mind that recruiter is listening because they're making notes. It gives them solid notes to pass on to the decision maker. The words you use in your pitch are the words that they're going to write down first. So be strategic about that because that is what the hiring manager is going to see. And that is what the hiring manager is going to question you off of. That's why I always tell people the pitch is where the gold and the magic is. Because when you land that properly, you're in control of how that interview goes and what you want to discuss to make you shine most. Okay? If you guys have any questions, just drop them in the comments because I know I can move fast. Okay? All right. So next, see your authority so that they feel you strongly in the interview. This is also important for them to see that you have authority. Even better yet, I always like to tell clients, why don't you always close off asking them, do you feel or need clarity on anything I just covered? That way, when they're making notes, if they tell you, hey, Daniela, can you go over the last piece again for me? You know exactly what to adjust for them to pass you on to the next level. So making that clear connection in the pitch is right here. And this is where I start with my clients. So for those of you making notes, educate in plain terms. Who are you impacting? Not what you're responsible for, okay? And align with the post. Okay, two. Oh, if you guys were making notes, I don't want to move too fast. If you have questions, guys, just ask me in the comments. The areas that people disconnect and why it feels a little strange. I always like to have this conversation. Let me ask you in the comments, and please participate. Do you understand what's happening in the marketplace, right? Do you understand what's taking place right now in the job market? If you say no, it's completely understandable. So I'll wait for you guys to kind of respond. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot. So I do want you to tell me in the comments. So if you say, well, Daniela, I really don't understand what's happening, that's because tech is happening to all industries. So it's no such thing as like breaking into tech. By 2025, we won't say that anymore because what's happening is tech is an event that's happening across multiple industries. And I know that sounds crazy, but look at this. Dodge. IBM is working with Schlumberger, which is oil and gas. Dodge is now creating EVs, which is environmental impact friendly cars, electrical vehicles. That's what an EV is. And so we are seeing companies like Oracle get contracts with energy companies like Shell and Green X Next Era. So you see things that overlap that you normally haven't seen. Most people in the job, even if you have 20 years, you've never seen IBM. That's because most corporations are trying to transition to operating solely off the cloud. So a company you work for could overlap with Microsoft. Okay? And so we will not hear people saying breaking into tech. What you're going to start hearing is each company having a tech side. Marriott Hotels, they're one of the top hiring companies for next year when it comes to corporate strategy and tech, and that's hospitality. So no longer will we be breaking out companies just by industry, like, oh, I'm oil and gas, oh, I'm tech, oh, I'm this. It's also going to be an overlap, which makes it harder for you if you're used to speaking in an industry voice or with an industry tone. Does this make sense to you guys? Because so many of you are used to talking to an industry or talking to recruiters who come from your industry. This is why I encourage you to use plain terms. So that way, if you have someone from, I'm trying to think. So if you have someone you're talking to from uh, Oracle and you are in energy, it's a clean transition no matter where you pivot. What is the priority? So typically, when you want to, pivot into higher paying roles, I want you to think about your skill set as it relates to the following. Right now, the priority across tech and companies that are overlapping with tech, right, is governance and climate change. Climate change is the reason why you see Dodge having these new EVs, electrical vehicles, because they have to reduce their environmental impact. Also, Tesla slipped from number one. So companies are fighting for, ooh, we can get in that number one spot. Okay. The Pentagon is going to a climate war. What that means, and I got that from Wall Street Journal, what this means is a lot of companies that you've typically never seen talking about climate change, Walmart, Costco, they have a green energy plan. Amazon, net to net goal, net zero. That's why you're seeing this because guess what? Next year, the government is going to find the hell out of corporations that do not have a plan in place to reduce their environmental impact. Governance. What that means is data privacy. Facebook, Metaverse, laid off a lot of people, but they're hiring more people again because guess what? They have to change their business model because they have to now consider privacy violations. Sephora. So now Sephora is actually looking for people from other industries to come in and help them on the management strategy side, right? So it has nothing to do with, oh, I'm not retail. Right, but you could be working from home as a director for Sephora on their data privacy projects. Oh, I'm not cybersecurity. Right, but they need a director who probably has had experience with OSHA or ISO or some type of government reporting for your industry because you know how strict and stringent it is. Antitrust bills in tech, which means it's going to limit the information that tech companies can get out of these apps like TikTok. So this is what's happening in the industry. So I want you to really sit down and look at your skill set and be like, where does my skill set touch on these things? Right? Because this is the priority. This is where money is going. This is where companies care. They don't care about the industry experience like, oh, you're not retail, you're not tech. They're looking at what problem you solve in your organization. So that's how I want you to consider it when you're pivoting next year for those roles that's at that 200 mark and above. Choose the right language. I say this with love, but a lot of clients who come to me, my African American clients, which is solely my target audience, we have a tendency to still use that outdated material. Nobody wants to know what you're responsible for. People want to know what problem you solve. So here's what I mean with that. The recruiter loses interest with your resume. Like so many people say, Daniela, people open my resume on my LinkedIn, but they don't call me back. And so to that I say, right, that's probably because you're not telling them what problem you solve, why you're necessary to your organization. And with hiring and firing frenzies and layoffs and the great resignation, all of this is happening. Why haven't you been laid off? What makes you important? Okay. And this is what it sounds like. If somebody says, I'm responsible for regulatory submissions and federal filing. Anybody can submit documents. Why are you necessary to that company? I work closely with our stakeholders and the necessary government agencies, forming strategic partnerships that keeps our company in direct alignment with current antitrust policies. That tells me why you're important. Because, oh, she's in alignment with what hits that bottom line and what hits the revenue. So this is the new language that recruiters are looking for those higher paying roles within tech and other major industries. Okay. Any questions? I'm gonna pause for a minute because I know I'm moving fast. Any questions? Okay. So this is where you establish industry authority. Right there. You do need to know what the market need is and what the industry need is. This is super duper important, and I can't stress that enough because this is what makes recruiters click on your post. For every job in tech, there are four more open. I should have put that in here. It's an article for CNN if you want to Google it. And so what that means is there are more opportunities than they are able to post. So they are always looking on LinkedIn, which is why it's very important for you to stay up to date on what matters as far as language, right? Um, the outdated way equals you limiting your range of experience and what you can get a hold of. So assumption based communication is you assuming that people know what capital projects are. Projects that impact the bottom line, maybe I would say. Working with key stakeholders, externally or internally, that matters. I meet with our PMs. Some recruiters may not know what a PM means. So watch those acronyms and watch assumption based language. Does this make sense to you guys? Y'all better talk to me. Okay. I'm gonna pause for a minute to see if you guys have questions. I might be moving too fast. Sometimes people are like, girl, I am making notes and you are moving way too fast for me. Okay, I don't want to move too fast. Does that make sense? Using assumption based language, go through your LinkedIn, your resume, or whatever it is that you depend on, or your moneymaker, to make sure you are not doing that. Okay? Okay, so we're going to move on to the next slide. So, impact pitching. When I talk about showing your ability to showcase your impact, managing supply chain for capital projects, one, that's assumption based, and that's not impact. Anybody could probably be trained to do that. But if you tell us, hey, I oversee all implementation strategy for supply chain protocol, meaning, oh, she has experience on that oversight or that overview of overall impact to the department and to the organization. You got to pull up a level. This positions me as a cross-functional leader across multiple departments. So not only are you the voice for supply chain, but you are the implementer or the policer of other people executing uh, properly in a way that works for supply chain to be at its best. So you got to think about how you impact your organization. This is what I tell people. If you are severely underpaid, when you reposition yourself on the market, that's your time to close that gap with the pitching. And so, last but not least, is my favorite topic, and it is culture coding. I cannot stress enough how significant this is. If you do not understand culture coding, you will probably be leaving a lot of money on the table because here's the thing, who are you really consulting with when it comes to your career? A lot of the times, professionals come to me, they have never had a person that was a VP or a CFO or someone who advises in that level. So they don't understand leadership expectations or the range. And so that's why programs like this matter so much. Culture coding is very real and it shapes your ability of how you communicate, how you use reductive language, and things like that. Recycling narratives. This is something I notice a lot, even in my family, in African American families. Half of my family is African American, the other half is Latin, and they both do this. It's where we recycle stories. Um, I was talking to a family member the other day, and she said, I was like, oh, I'm okay. Well, I'm tired. And, I've been working hard all day. And so it's a narrative that you have to be very tired for you to be valid, or for you to showcase that you work hard, proving yourself. Is recycling those language are just reductive language as well. I'm not gonna brag on myself, but I do well. Like, if it wasn't for me, this department wouldn't be all of that. But I don't know if I'm strong enough for leadership. Reductive language. So a lot of the times, the way we speak about ourselves and the way we see ourselves comes from the community we're in, the peers we have, the people who we go to for advising us. The first 7 years of your life is what shapes your money relationship. So if you come from a family where poverty was a thing, or money was up and down, or it was always a struggle, that's how you're going to see money. Like, it sure is hard to come by. It's these recessions, a narrative again. And so when you're around people who keep talking about a recession, you're gonna feel it, and you won't really see the other side, where this is typically where millionaires are made. For me, I have a mastermind group I'm a part of. I'm the only black person. It's full of mostly Jewish and white males. Funny thing is, when I'm around them, they're talking about how much money you can make in the midst of a recession. And for those of you watching under the sound of my voice, this is a time where you can pivot very strongly up the ladder. I have had clients pivot from 115 to 220 because the market is shifting heavy. So I want you to change or be aware of your narratives and your belief system. The four areas this touches is your language with yourself and how you communicate about yourself, your money intimacy, what is in your range. Do you feel comfortable asking for 220? Especially if you have 15 years experience. Limitations, that comes from family, right? Meaning what you see as reasonable, what you see as worth it. What you aspire to be is also shaped by family. A lot of the times when I worked in oil and gas and I was around other executives, here's a harsh truth. If they were executives like VPs, CFOs, their kids could barely have a degree, but they expected to be one. So it's the same thing in the black community. If you don't come from, your family having that kind of income or making that kind of money, you don't really expect it. And also, you don't see black people sitting in those seats. And as one of the first executive leaders at Shell Oil, I can be honest with you, the only way I changed my narrative is I had to start joining like coaching programs and things like that to start understanding how that corporate world works, because that was part of their everyday language, where it was a part of mine to just work hard, and you got to be 10 times better than the white person sitting next to you so you can advance. All of those narratives can kind of play in your head when you are thinking about going to that next level in your career. So this is very important. So I want you to really dig deep. If you don't really come back to my master's class or open another email or unsubscribe, I really do want you to know this. This is truly my zone and my passion. And I do feel that every time people come to this, it is my job and my purpose to challenge you to look at that next level. So you're not here by accident. I want you to really dig deep on this tonight. How much of what you believe when it comes to that next level is your own experience? Seriously, how much is that? I remember when I was at Shell, it was a role that I wanted, and the role paid 180, and at the whole package was worth 475,000, and I was only 27 years old. And the way most of the other African Americans spoke to me, like, girl, they're not gonna pick you, and they're not gonna select you. All these other black people here, what make you think they're gonna pick you? Those narratives did intimidate me, but because I had mentors who were already on the other side where I ended up going, right? Those were the people pouring into me. They allowed me to change my narrative. I started renegotiating every year aggressively, and I ended up being in that role that people told me I wouldn't get. And the way I pitched into that is diversity and inclusion. And so I want you to ask, do you feel you have a problem with discrediting yourself? Okay, when you hear the word boast, what comes to mind? When I tell professionals, like, you have to boast your skill set, sometimes that can make people feel like, ooh, I'm not a arrogant person or a boastful person. It's not for you to be arrogant. It's for you to build a level of trust in yourself in front of the recruiter. Where do you truly belong? Like, if you are really underpaid and you've been sitting at that job for more than too long, you deep down inside know, like, it's probably time for me to make a move. But the question is where? So I want you to really dig deep on those three. Okay. If you want to work with me, I have an end of year program that I want to quickly tell you about. It's a 3-day live event and it starts this Friday. I'm so excited about this because I'm covering the three areas we just went over. One, I'm going to help you through your culture coding, which is what we just talked about. Two, I'm going to also help you understand a market assessment so that we can align your skills with what problems you solve in today's market that matters. On the third day, I'm helping you produce and put together your pitches. So if you are really ready to say, you know what, I want to start off in the right direction on my LinkedIn and in how I introduce myself to recruiters verbally, and I'll even give you scripts on how to introduce yourself to the recruiters in the inbox. This is the program for you. It's called From Imposter to Influence. And the reason why I structured it this way is because imposter syndrome is centered around these three areas. Culture coding. This is day one. This is where we dig really deep to understand what your coding is. For every person, it's different. Just because you're African American or just because you're black doesn't mean that it's the same as the next person's. This is where we get really clear on what it is that comes up for you when you're pivoting into leadership. I uncover where this comes from and how to reverse that feeling. The next thing is why you need it. This helps you disengage from any background noise. My clients get really sensitive about this. They love this day. When I did it last year, it was a hit. So many people were crying the first day, like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I use so much reductive language. It really does help you to see yourself through the perspective of another person. Okay. Two, how your resistance feels tells you where you are. Day two is where we focus on the market. You need to know where your skill sets align with the market in order for you to really stand out. So if, like we just went over the job post, if you project management, then I'll show you where you align with sustainability. That way, when you're applying for jobs, you're more likely to get selected because your resume aligns, your opening to the recruiter aligns, and whatever you put in your LinkedIn will align. Okay, so where's your skill set fit? When we talk about governance, when we talk about environmental impact, social, you'd be surprised. This is a day where you really learn what's happening and how you can apply your skill set to maximize your potential. And this is what I call SME building. This is called subject matter expert. Okay. You get really clear on what's going on so that you can align yourself and knock it out the park every time you interview. One of the reasons you battle with imposter syndrome is because you don't know what to say and you don't know what's happening. And the reason why this is important, so you can, when the recruiter is interviewing you, it really does give them a sense of comfort in speaking with you because it's like, oh, wow, she really does understand what we're dealing with as an organization. Day three is the best day. A lot of people love this day because this is where you're going to see the rubber meets the road. This is where we develop your pitch. So if you get, when the recruiter says, so tell me about yourself, if you get that feeling where it's like, wait a minute, I'm starting to get nervous, I will literally help you. It's a small group setting and it's live. We all develop our pitches, and on the follow-up day, everybody pitches to each other. I love this because last year, people got jobs in the group. A lot of people were able to hear how they come off to other professionals and other leaders because there are a lot of leaders who join my program every year. And a lot of the times, this gives you a range on, okay, that's how she pitched. She has my background. I think I need to adjust mine. And then if I'm hearing it and I'm telling you what to adjust, you literally get a full 180 on the way you sell yourself to the market at large. This also helps you to control yourself in the interview. It also helps you to control the interview. I always like to tell people how you pitch determines what questions they ask. Most of you have probably bombed an interview before because you allowed them to drive. So day three is the day I build your pitch with you. And then at the end of day three, I'll give you guys, it doesn't close. You don't lose access to me. We'll wait a week. I think it's December 30th. We'll come back and we'll have a follow-up session where you tell me what's working, what's not working, what feels good, what doesn't. Like, hey, Daniela, I tried my pitch. I want to kind of adjust it. Or we just do a touch base and a follow-up. What's next for you? What do you want to look for in your next job? And we start talking about that. The follow-up day is to make sure all of what we covered in 3 days completely sets in. Okay? And this helps you pitch quicker. When the recruiter says, so tell me about yourself, you'll knock it out the park every time. I also give you scripts on what to say when you slide in that recruiter's DM so that they want to respond to you ASAP and you make the connection. So day three is the day where you put all of the SME building together. We'll already know what your background noise is. And then this day, when we develop your pitch, you will never feel nervous again when recruiters ask you, because this is pitch development for the 180, 190, 200K range, 160, that higher director, VP, and even for the C suite, for those of you who don't know, because a lot of organizations are doing that, looking to diversify the C suite. So that's what this is for. So if you say, I just want to find a little job next year to like part time, that's fine. But keep in mind, a lot of leadership opportunities are work from home, which makes the deal even sweeter for a lot of you. So don't miss out on that, especially if you have tenure and you know it's time for you to make a move. The bonuses that I give you when you start are bonuses that I used to offer in my consulting. It's a negotiating playbook, which basically breaks out what phase of negotiations you need to be looking at every quarter. Quarter is like the first quarter when we start in spring, second quarter, because negotiations is not one time ask for more money. It is a four-way process. Like you got to build and nurture that process over the each quarter. And so this playbook helps you to outline when you do approach them, what to say, what to have in place, what to communicate back to them. My clients really love that one. That did really well for the last 5 years. Everybody loves that. Recruiter engagement scripts. What I did from last year, 2021, up until this day, all my clients sent me screenshots of the scripts that work the best in the recruiter's DMs. So I used all the strongest connecting scripts, and I put those in a one list so that all of my clients, all of the people who've worked with me in the past, I send that to them out on a monthly email, and they love that because it helps them to understand what works, what recruiters respond to. So that script engagement is already something that has been tested and tried. And a lot of the times I sell it by itself, but I'm going to package this for free. If you join the program coming up this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, if you miss a day, it's recorded and you can just watch the recording and then come to the follow up. Depends on what works for you. LinkedIn settings for optimization and lowball offers. For those of you who do not know, your LinkedIn settings are very sensitive now because of the data privacy laws. And so what that means is with the bonuses, you will get an opportunity to have a video where I'm basically walking you through how to get your settings to a place where when you update stuff, recruiters immediately see it. It also optimizes your settings for diversity and inclusion. Don't know if you know this, but recruiters can set it for more diverse applicants. So these are the bonuses you get for free when you sign up today. My normal rate for my program is typically starting at 1987. Plus the bonuses will take you to about 2,500, which is what this program did last year. And because it's the holidays and it was Black Friday, I wanted to do something where most people who cannot afford $2,000, because I normally work with leaders, people who are already in director, VP levels, and they want to go up higher. So I was like, okay, what is it that makes it to where African Americans who need to even begin to pivot in leadership is usually a cost? And so that's why I made this one a lot more budget friendly. This one is just for $297 for the whole 3 days and the follow-up and all the scripts. So you get all the access to me live for 4 days straight. Well, for 3 days straight, and then the follow-up day with the recordings and the bonus for just $297. So if you have any questions, I'm about to drop the link for you. If you have any questions, I want you to go ahead and ask away. Here we go. Any questions, guys? It's a perfect time to ask. Okay, so I don't want you to hear the feedback. So the link is in the comments. Make sure I only have so many spots open because I don't want this program to be something where it's like 50, 40 people in it. I want to keep it small because one, I normally don't have my price that low. Two, I want to be able to tend to every person in the program or in that session. So the next session is purposely made to stay small. If you have any questions about joining or any questions about, how it works or, again, kickoff day is December. I don't know if I updated the website, but the kickoff date for this round is on the 16th, which is this Friday. Saturday, and Sunday. And I think this is the perfect time to do it because it's the end of the year. It's a time where everybody's kind of chilling at home or you have downtime. Again, if you can't make one of the days, you can just simply go back and watch the replay. That is the registration link. I really hope to see you guys there. And I will leave this open in case you have questions because I don't know if you want me to go back to another slide so you can make notes or if you just have questions for me or about the program. I don't see any questions, so I'll tell you guys a little bit more about how I work. It's typically set up in a Zoom session and it's limited to a small amount of people so that I can hear and work with you intimately. And the reason why I like mastermind group settings is because there's always going to be somebody in the group, one that really helped me with my career. Two, there's always going to be somebody in the group that's where you want to be. And so you're not only getting feedback from me, but you're also amongst other women who are trying to move up the ladder as well, who are where you want to be or they're headed to where you want to be. All of my clients, we all end up being like really close after all my coaching sessions because they all have something in common. And so it really helps if you know the girl that got hired at Microsoft. And then, like the last session, we had a young lady go to KPMG, PwC, Microsoft, and Google. So knowing what those people go through in the interview process is really helpful. Last year, I had people who went through Amazon, so we pretty much knew all the questions for Amazon and how to, get past those questions with the recruiters. So it's the perfect time for you to really sit down and really perfect the way you pitch so you can pivot up the ladder. So that's why this program really means a lot to me. Any questions? Y'all are so quiet. Y'all are so, so quiet. So if you want to join, the link is there. Any questions? So I don't want to just kind of hang up. Do you want me to send you guys something in an email like a Q&A time? If you want to book a session on my calendar to ask questions, you can. So if you want to do that, just let me know because I typically send that out in an email. I hope everybody's enjoying this time. I'm in Texas and the weather is like really getting to my voice. But I know a lot of you are probably working from home just chilling. Any questions? Y'all are so quiet. I hope y'all don't have questions and you're scared. These are like private, so the only people who get these links are me and the people who sign up for them. So if you want to ask me something, please do. Type it in the comments. I want to talk before my voice goes out. Okay. So I don't see any questions. If I miss you, I sincerely apologize. What I'm going to go ahead and do is wrap this session and send you guys an email. I sincerely hope to see you inside the program. This program, like I said, it really does mean a lot to me because I was in my zone when I made this, and I pulled out the days that I feel are the best days for you to start when it comes to going upward in your career progression. Because typically, these three areas that we talked about today, these are the areas that most African Americans suffer with the most. Not knowing what to say when the recruiter says, "So tell me about yourself." Two, we have a disconnect from what's really happening on the market. There are so many companies that are set for hiring frenzies, but they have a pledge, like I talked about in the earlier slides. Let me go black. They have a pledge, like we talked about in the earlier slides, where they want to intentionally hire more African Americans. And so, for those of you who you know you're worth way more and you're getting underpaid, this is the best time for you to go ahead and pivot up the ladder so that you're already positioned as a leader on the marketplace. That way, it's not like I had a client say it doesn't feel like she has to prove her point or prove herself when she's in an interview because she already has a title now. I have several clients who went to Microsoft. So Microsoft is not playing. Another company that's having a hiring frenzy next year and they have a pledge to hire more African Americans. The catch is the way we just went over this pitching. That's how they want you to pitch. If you don't pitch like that or you don't know how to pivot, you won't get picked up. And so that's the catch. I believe it's Marriott hotels, um, Humanicare on the even if you're not in the medical field, this is corporate strategy. Humanicare, Marriott hotels, Apple, Microsoft. Believe it or not, Amazon is doing layoffs, but do you know that they're doing a huge hiring spree next year? So that's what I mean. Like a lot of companies are moving from old, outdated business models. Netflix is also hiring after they did all those layoffs because Netflix is picking up gaming and sports. So they want people who are a part of failed projects. That's their buzzword. Um, and it's a whole bunch of other people. I can't remember the list, but there are a lot of companies that are hiring next year. So if you have been kind of sitting on the market this year, or you found that this year you struggled a little bit or wobbled a little bit when it came to opportunity, this is the best time for you to really take some time, join the program, and get your stuff together, your pitching, so that when next year starts, that spring rush, that's when they go on the hiring, you're already prepared. So I hope to see you guys in the program. I'm going to go back to the slide. If you have questions, just reply to the email that you clicked on to join the link, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. I'm going back to the questions. Yeah, so it's $297 for the 4-day event. It's 3 days we go straight live. And then I'll follow up a week after Christmas to see how you guys are landing. I'll send out emails. I like to talk to my clients to see where they are, what's working, what you feel still a little wobbly about. And then that's when you get your bonuses and everything. So you can adjust your settings and stuff like that. So the link is in the comments, guys, and I am about to call it a night. Thank you so much for coming to the live tonight. I look forward to having you in the program. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Y'all have a good one, and God bless.